Welcome to the Authentic Leader Show podcast. Today's podcast is called An Authentic Leader's 4 Pillars. It's an episode about the 4 basic pillars to lead high-performing technology teams. Welcome to the Authentic Leader Show. Well, the Authentic Leader Show is the podcast about technology leaders who are crushing the bell curve of team performance and leading high-performing technology teams. Now, of course, I talk a lot about frustrated leaders, and I know frustrated leaders because, hey, I was the poster child for frustrated leaders. And I know that you are a frustrated leader too, based on my experience, if you are doing one of these 3 things. So the first one is that, hey, you've never even considered making a leadership plan. And even if you did, you wouldn't know where to start. Like a leadership plan, who makes leadership plans? But I've actually found creating a leadership plan is one of the most effective ways to intentionally create your leadership, of course. But also, if you're a frustrated leader, another thing is that you have never thought about what you would want your leadership to even look like. What does it look like in the future for you as a leader? And then number 3, if you're a frustrated leader, is that you see how other leaders actually end up making it look easy, but you're really confused why it's not so easy for you. And because you are doing one of these 3 things, here's something else I know about you, is that you're jumping from one leadership idea or system or even philosophy, and you're jumping to the next one without really feeling any kind of improvement. There's a lot of ideas out there, right? There's a lot of ideas, systems, and philosophies out there for leading teams. And you've tried several and probably many of them, but you're really not seeing any improvement. Another thing that you are doing if you are experiencing one of these frustrations we mentioned earlier, the second one is that you're mimicking, or either that's intentionally or maybe subconsciously, the styles of other leaders. You're seeing other successful leaders and you are mimicking whatever style they are using in their leadership and hoping that maybe that will help you to be a more effective leader. Or another thing that I also know that you're doing if you're experiencing frustration as a leader is that you're feeling like you are pretending that you have it all together only to feel like someday you will be found out for not really knowing what you are doing. And you just simply don't want that to be found out, because once it's found out, now what are you going to do, right, as a leader? You want to maintain your leadership, and it seems scary, right, for people to find out that you don't really know what you're doing. Maybe you're not meant to be a leader, and I don't want you to have to do that. So if you have been jumping from one leadership idea, system, or even philosophy, let's say more than 3 months, one good quarter in your career, then I know that you are not only don't you have a leadership plan, but you, again, wouldn't know where to start if you wanted to even create a plan. So just so you know, inside of the Authentic Leader Framework, I have what I call these 4 pillars that help leaders to create their leadership foundation. And when you master all 4 of these, you will not only see huge results, but you will have more confidence in your leadership to establish an entire team of high performers, because that's what it's all about, right? You need and deserve an entire team of high performers. Not only that, but your team also deserves that as well. So of course, we don't have time to create your detailed plan today. So I'm going to give you the 4 pillars so that you can begin creating your leadership foundation. And it's so powerful that you'll be able to start today, right? You got to start somewhere. Let's start today with your foundation. And once you have that foundation, you can then begin to build upon your leadership plan. Now, I'm going to show you how to start your leadership plan, but here are some of the mistakes that most leaders make when they are making their plan. So again, they hear one idea or system or philosophy and they jump right to the next one, forgetting the last one that they jump to, right? It's like the flavor of the day. And I've done this. I mean, by all means, don't think that I didn't also do this. This is the easy thing to do, because you hear a great idea and you're like, wow, maybe I should implement that in how I'm leading my team. So you go all gung-ho on that and you completely forget about what you were trying to do with the last idea, system, or philosophy. And of course, the problem with doing that is that you never give yourself really a chance to create any kind of momentum, and you really end up starting from ground zero again. So I have these 4 pillars, and I help technology leaders to establish inside of the Authentic Leader framework, and we will have all of those covered in there. And I'm going to give you these 4 pillars because it's really the most important first step in creating your leadership plan. And with this, you start your foundation of leadership that you can then build on. So real quick, you may have heard my story of leadership, but I want to tell you briefly just to remind you, because this is really where these 4 pillars came from. So first off, I was a successful, what I would call an informal leader who was leading IT projects. I was, of course, I had leading a project, and I had people who were on a project team, and I had pretty good success actually leading several really large IT projects. Because of that success, I was promoted to a titled leadership position. And a titled leadership position to me is that in your description of your title, of your role, is that you're expected to lead a team. And of course, that's what I did. I had a team that I needed to lead. And I realized really very quickly after becoming this titled leader that leadership is very different on the other side of leadership. And I was a frustrated leader for the reasons that we mentioned above. You know, I had no plan. I was mimicking other leaders' styles. I was doing a poor job really pretending that I had it all together when, of course, I did not. And I ultimately failed as a leader. And I promised myself that I would never lead that way again. Not only never lead that way again, I would never feel that way again, because it does not feel good. When you know don't know what you're doing and you don't understand why, and it seems like it should be easier than it really is, that's just not a good place to be. And I don't want that to happen for you. So I've spent more than 25 years since then really understanding what does it take to become an authentic leader. And I've had countless modifications as I learned, and I've tried, and I've improved. And ultimately, I determined that there are these 4 basic pillars to leading authentically. And I'm going to give you these 4. I'm going to tell you the 4 first, and then we're going to go into more detail on each one of those. So the first one is that you simply need to own your leadership success. No one else can own it for you, right? You need to take full ownership of your leadership success. Number 2 is that you need to commit to your team's success. I'll tell you how to do that in a moment. Number 3 is you need to create a culture of confident decision-making and accountability. And then number 4 is you need to invest in your team's success. So let's break these down a little bit to help you establish your leadership foundation within these 4 pillars. So the first one, again, is to own your leadership success. You simply need to take full responsibility for your success. Your success or failure is going to be completely on you, and you need to take full responsibility. If something goes well, it's your responsibility, and if something doesn't go well, you need to take full responsibility of that. You need to determine for you what authenticity means for you and what leadership means for you, because you need to create the kind of leader you need to be in a way that fits you. And it all goes around to leading yourself well first. And this is one of the things that I tell the leaders that I work with, is that in order to lead teams successfully, you need to lead yourself well first. And of course, that's the very beginning and the foundation of this. So all of that leads back to owning your leadership success. Number 2 is to commit to your team's success. Now, what does that look like when you commit to your team's success? Well, first is that, of course, you need to set your team's direction. You need to be clear about where are we going as a team, and your team needs to be involved in that. You need to get your team involved in that. But once that's determined, you also need to forecast your team's aspirational and outcome-based achievements. Now, I know the outcome-based achievements are typically what is most popular, but sometimes they're actually aspirational. It's one of those things you kind of know when you get to it, but you want to be really clear, a clear picture. What does this look like when we achieve what we say we're going to set out to achieve together as a team? So that is number 2, commit to your team's success. Number 3 is to create a culture of confident decision-making and accountability. Now, how do you do this? First, you need to fully understand the skills and the motivations of each team member on your team. Once you fully, truly understand where your team falls and where each team member specifically falls in what their specific skills are, and even their motivations and the roles and responsibilities and functions that they have in their roles, then you can uniquely begin shifting decision making to the team. And that is part of your responsibility. You have ultimately have responsibility for the decisions that are made on the team, whether they're being made by you or not. And you need to identify what are the decisions that can and should be made on the team and not be made by you. And you need to push those into the team. And you do that by being clear about the specific skills and even the motivations of each member of your team. But also, you also need to establish your accountability culture. And I mentioned this before that you need to fully own your team's culture. No one else can own that. This is one thing that cannot be delegated. As the leader of your team, whatever culture there is right now, you are fully responsible for that. So you need to take ownership, take the reins, right? And it's up to you to create this culture in the team of being accountable to yourself. The team members need to be accountable to themselves, and they need to be accountable to each other, and of course you. And you do that with a consistent delegation and accountability system. And it's a system where you implement, hey, this is how I'm going to consistently delegate work to the team, appropriately to the team, but also hold people accountable. And I actually help leaders do that in a way that does not create conflict on the team. So that was number 3, about creating a culture of confident decision making and accountability. And then number 4 is to invest in the team's success. You need to make a full investment in making sure that your team is successful. And how do you do this? You do this a couple of different ways. Well, first is to apply a communication plan. You need to plan your communication. How will you communicate to your team? What kind of mediums are available? What's the appropriate medium for the different types of communication you'll need to apply to your team? How often you need to communicate certain information? How will you control confidential information and information that the team needs to know so that they can perform their work? So it's all about identifying and applying a communication plan that fits you, but also serves your team. Also, in investing in your team's success, you need to invest in establishing one-on-one time with each member of your team. Your team needs that one-on-one time, because here's what happens is that if you don't have a dedicated one-on-one time, there creates a gap in communication with individuals on your team. And anytime there's a gap in communication, what gets filled are stories, right? The team member who feels there's a gap will fill that with some kind of story, and not in any kind of vicious way or because of anything else. It's human, right? When you don't have information coming to you, you start to speculate and start to create your own story of what you think is probably happening, probably based on limited information. So you need to establish one-on-one time with each member of your team. And then the last part here of investing in your team, you need to lead your team where they are and help them to achieve more. Everyone on your team is performing at a different level, at a different place in their career, at a different performance level in their career, and you need to meet them where they are. You need to be clear about where they are right now and where they are going, and it's part of your job is to appropriately push them so that they can achieve more and grow and become an even more effective team member. But of course, that ultimately creates a more effective, high-performing team. Now, this is the simple foundation, and I've helped hundreds of technology leaders to establish their foundation just like this as leaders of their teams. And now, if you can relate to what a frustrated leader does and experiences, those things that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, and if you're interested in more details about these, what's behind these 4 pillars, I want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation with you specifically. Let's talk about your current strategy, whatever that is. Let's talk about what's been working for you so far and where maybe you might need some help. And then on this call, we will discuss some very specific ideas that you'll be able to implement as soon as we finish up with the call. It's all beyond really these 4 pillars. We'll go into detail on something that's going to help you specifically when you walk away from that call. So to talk directly with me, you can go to AuthenticSuccessOnline.com and you can click there at the very top where it says Free Strategy Call. You can join us on Facebook by going to Authentic Leader Now. You can also join us on LinkedIn at Authentic Business Services. You can just search for Authentic Business Services. You'll find us right there. You can also find more information at ChristopherRJones.com or AuthenticSuccessOnline.com. Hey, I just want to simply thank you for joining us today, and I want you to come back next week for another episode where we'll go even deeper into some authentic leader framework topic that I believe is going to help you immediately.